This is Johnny and Jose with Tiger Bomb MMA, and tonight we'll be going over UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Chikadze, giving you our thoughts and predictions on the entire card. We'll begin with a fight, very short notice at bantamweight between Mana Martinez and Guido Cannetti. Mana Martinez is coming in here. Currently, no odds on this fight. Very, very short notice. He was supposed to fight Trevin Jones. And since we're recording this after Gastelum versus Cannonier, maybe he should have fought Trevin Jones. He had a really good shot of knocking him out. I think he might have. But yeah, we recently found out that his coach, Saul Solis, passed away recently. So it's understandable that he pulled out of that fight. But now he's fighting again. He's fighting Guido Cannetti. Guido's 41 years old. He's fighting out of Buenos Aires, Argentina, one of the very few Argentinians fighting in the UFC. And with this bout, 41-year-old Guido Cannetti, who's been knocked out and finished his last two fights, Mana Martinez, I think, is going to run through him. Mana Martinez, as I mentioned in our previous breakdown before, the fight got canceled, his left hook is pretty much money. And with the added I was going to say the added, not pressure, but the added motivation to win a fight in spectacular fashion after his coach recently passed. It's honestly, it's either going to motivate him to get the knockout or it's really going to affect him. I don't think it's going to affect him that much. He is a professional. He understands the game. He is fighting just weeks after, so I'm sure he's very prepared. But yeah, I think Martinez is going to knock him out in the first round. Guido, he of course has a path to victory. He's very explosive, but he doesn't have much gas with that explosion, and he's just not the most skilled guy. He's 8-5 compared to the 8-2 in Mana Martinez. As I mentioned, his only loss as of late within his last five was to Draco Rodriguez. Very strange fight. I think he just underestimated Draco. As we know, Draco now is on a two-fight losing streak, has not looked good in the UFC whatsoever. Very stationary, very frozen in there, kind of like a Hispanic Tyron Woodley. But yeah, I'll go with Mana Martinez. I don't have much more to add to that. I think he knocks him out in the first round. I'll probably be smashing that TKO round number one prop. And I think Guido gets kicked out. I think that's too much for him. Two losses in a row so far. Third loss by devastating knockout. We won't be seeing him in the UFC.
Yeah, I'm not sure where he got the nickname Ninja from, but he's the first Guido Ninja I think the UFC's ever seen. Not very impressive, to be honest. Yeah, he has not had a great stint in the UFC. Marlon Chito Vera, he lost to him close to 3 years ago. He hasn't been really active since then. How do I put this? Yeah, his wins are like, if you've ever walked into a bakery, and they have and you see muffins in through the glass counter or whatever, and they barely have any sprinkles on them. That's his record. The wins are barely any sprinkles, meaning that bakery is kind of cheap with the sprinkles. I understand why they would be. But anyway, that's what his record looks like. It's just a couple sprinkles. You can count them on one hand. Yeah, I don't think he's getting past Mana. Very possible, depending on how nasty he gets finished. Whether it's just left, as you said, a left hook, either on the ground or maybe in some ground and pound. He might get cut if he manages to go the distance with Mana, and I think makes it at least competitive to where it's like, yes, he lost each round, but he didn't get decimated each round. He might stick around for another fight or two, depending. But from his activity in the last few years, it doesn't look like it. I think he's going to lose. He's going to get cut, and the Dana White's Contender Series is coming up, so I'm pretty sure they're going to make that decision by or before then. So I'll take Mana by. I'll hop on the KO train, but I wouldn't count out the decision as well.
Our next bout at featherweight, we've got a fight between Pat Sabatini and Jamal Pretty Boy Emmers. Currently, the odds on this one, according to my bookie, are in favor of Jamal Emmers minus 145. The comeback on Sabatini is plus 115. And uh, interesting bout. I know a lot of people, according to Tapology, are on the decision train for Pat Sabatini, and I understand that he's a very good grappler, very good wrestler, very accomplished. I've made a joke in the past that his LinkedIn lists literally almost every single accomplishment that he's had since he's in kindergarten, like championship wrestler, age 5, all the way to like coaches jujitsu's on Saturday mornings. I'm like, okay, cool. But yeah, his jujitsu is pretty solid. He beat a what would I call him, a scrub in the UFC, Tristan Connolly. He's a fluke win over your boy. I was going to call him Maluko. He is very Maluko, but Michel Pereira. As for Jamal Emmers, there's a stigma with Jamal Emmers that I've had for a long time, is that he got knocked out by Julian Erosa pretty badly. And it's just like usually Julian Erosa is on the receiving end of a nasty like head kick knockout. But no, this time it was Jamal Emmers. And ever since then, he got on a really good winning streak. He trains with some good people. He trains his wrestling with Darian Caldwell. He trains with Bobby King Green. Guy has like the right formula. It's just that sometimes he does not perform. Watching tape on him, his fight against Giga Chikadze, it's just like he had the tools to make it more close than what it was. Even though it was a split decision, I thought it was a clear win for Giga, but there he had really good moments in there, just not as many as I would like to have seen. But that was again years ago. That was a year and a half ago. His fight with Vince Cachero was a year ago. That's crazy to think of. I remember max betting him on that bout, and he looked good there. So the fight basically comes down to, can Jamal Emmers stuff the takedowns? I think he can. Again, training with Darian Caldwell, a very high level wrestler, he should be able to stuff the takedowns and then just use his reach advantage. He has a 74-inch reach overall compared to the 70 for Pat Sabatini. Pat Sabatini's hands are not the greatest. He has had his arm broken once before. I'm not going to say that Jamal Emmers is going to kick his arm and break it, but it's very possible. I'll go with Jamal Emmers. He just has to stuff the takedowns, use his reach advantage, be aggressive, but not aggressive enough to, have Pat Sabatini duck under and take him down and control him. I think Emmers is just the overall better fighter. And we'll see how Pat Sabatini's hands have improved. But at this very moment, I think Jamal Emmers is just the way better fighter, should have no problem with Pat Sabatini as long as, again, he can stuff that takedown. So I've got Emmers to win this one. I'm going to say a late TKO. Pat Sabatini really slowed down in his fight with Tristan Connolly in the third round. Very concerning, especially when I put quite a bit of money on him. I can't remember if he was an underdog or not, but he was kind of close, maybe a slight favorite. So it's very concerning. And Emmers does tend to pick up the pace in the later rounds. So I'll go with Emmers by late TKO, third round.
And don't really have much more to add to this one. I think with Jamal Emmers' height and reach, he should be able to outperform him on his feet. You should have the advantage. I think maybe in the speed as well, to be honest. But for sure, he's going to have the reach advantage. I think he's going to be a little bit more accurate as well. So I'll just take Emmers by decision here.
Our next bout at flyweight, we've got a short notice bout with two ladies, JJ Aldrich versus Vanessa Demopopoulos, Lil Monster Vanessa Demopopoulos. And interesting is that JJ was supposed to fight, I believe it was Tracy Cortez, and we missed an opportunity there for, max bet season. JJ is not the most skilled fighter. She's got one of those weird win-loss records. So she has a win over Polyana Viana and then loses to Maisie Barber via knockout, beats Lauren Mueller by decision, then gets not TKO'd. She gets decisioned by Sabina Mazo, and then she beats Courtney Casey by a split decision. As for Vanessa Demopopoulos, I have my biases against her. She fought in the Contender Series once. When was that? About a year ago. She fought Corey McKenna, ended up losing that fight via decision. I will say this though, despite me not really being I don't want to say the biggest fan. I'm not a fan of her at all. I do not like her. She just rubs me the wrong way. I think I'm pretty sure she's a stripper, like a self-admitted stripper. I have no idea. I'm not going to look into it too much, but I know she has a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. She's got a very active guard and very active bottom game. Her submissions are pretty solid, right? And her striking has improved slightly. She did recently get a TKO knockout win over Cynthia Arcio in LFA about 4 months ago. I think she called her shot then and there. She was like, "Hey, call me up, Dana." This fight has the, of course, ability to be very close, being women's MMA. There are no odds out yet. I'm going to go with Vanessa Demopopoulos. I think she's going to be the more aggressive girl out there. She'll go for takedowns. If she doesn't go for takedowns, she will pull guard. She has a very active bottom game, very active guard. She'll throw up triangles. She'll go for weird, funky submissions, inverted reverse triangles, and shit like that. Very close. It could be a split. JJ Aldrich's path to victory is if she does get taken down, of course, just maintain top pressure. Do not fall into that trap. Corey McKenna really demonstrated that, like, the downfall of Vanessa Demopopoulos is that she gets too content on the bottom and she basically becomes sub or bust. And if she can just control her from top, not fall into a trap, she should win. And of course, avoid the takedowns, pop off the jab. Her striking is much better. But I think Vanessa Demopopoulos, the best way I can describe her is that she's too dumb to realize that she's not the best fighter. She thinks highly of herself. And sometimes that's enough. Like, she'll force a position, get on top, and then get a submission. I'll go with Vanessa Demopopoulos to win by a second round submission. Assuming she's the underdog, she should be because she's coming in on short notice. I've talked about this one too much. Again, Vanessa Demopopoulos, second round submission.
Don't really have too much to add or say for these to win myself. It's women's MMA. I think it's going to go over. Put a gun to my head. It's a coin flip fight for me. I'll say JJ Aldrich, but I'm not really too confident in that. I'm more confident in that it'll go to decision.
Our next bout at light heavyweight, we've got Dustin Jacoby versus Darren the Dentist Stewart. And currently the odds have this one minus 190 for Jacoby, come back on Stewart plus 160. Interesting bout between these two guys. Dustin Jacoby is the much larger man. He's 6'3", 78-inch reach. Come back on Darren Stewart, 6 foot tall, 74-inch reach. So he's at a 4-inch reach disadvantage. His last two fights were back-to-back. You can just call them losses to Eric Anders. First one was a TKO via illegal knee. I think he was basically done before that illegal knee. And then the decision loss to Eric Anders again. Darren Stewart, I might have been wrong about this guy. I was very high on him. And I think it mainly had to do because of a split decision loss to Kevin Holland. And I know that sounds dumb. Like, hey, he lost to Kevin Holland. But this was when Kevin Holland was like, oh, shit, this guy might be fighting Izzy soon as long as he's on track. And we've seen what happened to Kevin Holland since. Just cannot stuff a takedown to save his life, literally. And yeah, his striking is impressive. He has power. He looked like he was progressing in his overall game, man. He was talking like, I'm putting in the miles, I'm running in swamps, and then he just does not perform like he should. He just seems like a step behind, even though he should be the faster fighter here. And quite frankly, I think he just has the more power between these two guys. The level of striking that Dustin Jacoby has is very, very solid. His last fight was a draw with Ian Kutalaba. He got decimated in the first round, but it wasn't enough, of course, to get the stoppage. It was a 10-8 in all three of the judges' scorecards. He ended up winning the later two rounds, round number 2 and round number 3, ended up becoming a draw. Dustin Jacoby, this is his fight to lose. At a minus 190, the odds are acceptable. They're not out of control. He should definitely win this one. He could easily get a TKO once Darren Stewart slows down. I think again he should just use his size, his low leg kicks. He's not going to be the faster guy in this fight, but he can time something just right and clip Darren Stewart. Darren Stewart has been really showing his chin might be deteriorating. Dustin Jacoby, we've seen, dude's pretty durable, and with all those years of experience in kickboxing, it should be a striker's delight. His takedown defense has really improved. Dustin Jacoby was one of these guys who you would take him down and just beat his ass, but he's really improved in his takedowns and his takedown defense, that is. So Darren Stewart, I don't think he'll be able to muscle down Dustin Jacoby. I will go with Jacoby to win this one by a decision, maybe a 29-28. It should be a 30-27, but I see Darren Stewart maybe popping off in the first round, making it really close, maybe even stumbling Dustin, but I see Dustin taking the last two rounds at the bare minimum.
This one, it's a lot closer than it seems on paper. In reality, uh, Dustin does have the height, and actually, does he have the reach advantage?
Yep.
Yeah, he does have
4
the
inches.
reach advantage as well. The 4 inches doesn't seem like a lot, but yeah, it is quite a bit
Tread lightly there.
in terms of reach. Uh, he is a little bit older, but the thing that I guess impressed me more is how he's handled adversity because he's fought, I think, some pretty tough guys, and he fought Ian Kutalaba. Ian Kutalaba isn't since he got since Ian got exposed by what's his name, Magomed Ankalev. He doesn't seem as tough as I think when he painted himself green and screamed at I forgot what dude during the face off.
He
You know,
he painted himself green with I think Cannoneer, and he got his ass beat, and then he screamed at what's his name? Why can't I think Khalil Roundtree?
Khalil
Yeah.
Roundtree. Yeah, he
Poor Khalil, man. He was just like, what the fuck?
yeah he. I think he's yeah man. He got I think he's going to be more known, at least to me, for painting himself green. Like that one guy who painted himself as face paint as the Joker, and really he didn't have shit to show, when it came time town to fight. Um, but he did handle himself well. I think I don't recall why it was a draw exactly. I need to go back.
10-8.
But he did.
10-8
Yeah,
first round.
I he did. Uh, I think fight well against Maxim Grishin, versus how compared to how Darren Stewart has handled himself, even in his last 5 fights. I would say he did well against going back to Cage Warriors against Bartosz Babinski. He beat, yes, Maki Pitolo, but Maki Pitolo, I don't think he's ever been. I don't even think he's in the UFC anymore, unless I'm thinking of the wrong Hawaiian.
No, he's still
But
there
he
for
wasn't really.
now. Oh, Kai Kamaka's
Yeah,
out. So
but
yeah.
yeah, it's like one of those tough Hawaiian guys. I mean, they're good, but I don't think they're even top 30, top 40 UFC. Then he lost against Kevin Holland. That was a pretty competitive fight. Then he lost against Eric Anders, and I think here he's coming up against Dustin Jacoby, who I don't know if he's tougher than Eric or Kevin Holland, but he is a scrapper. I think he knows how to handle himself, and I don't think he's going to what's the word, panic under pressure. Because Darren Stewart does bring the power. He's a pretty stocky guy, but I think it's going to be sort of the same as when he fought Kevin Holland, except with less trash talk. I don't think Dustin Jacoby has, that. I don't think he has that in him per se.
Do you remember his his face off with Ian Kutalaba, and Ian grabbed his back of his neck and he like just kind of Khabib'd him a little bit.
I remember that.
Because speaking of Dustin Jacoby's trash talk, his trash talk consisted of we'll see, man. I'm like, oh god damn it. What do you mean we'll see? Like that's like the most unsure answer to say, like, well, we'll see. I'm like, yeah, no shit.
Yeah, so I think Dustin Jacoby's going to take this one by decision. I don't think either guy's going to finish each other. And I don't think they have what it takes to finish each other, I should say.
Our next bout at middleweight, we've got Smiling Sam Alvey versus Wellington, the Prodigy Turman. We should probably no longer call him the Prodigy. Currently, the odds have it at minus 145 for Turman. Come back on Alvey plus 115. This fight, he was supposed to fight, who was it? Roman Kopylov, Sam Alvey was, that is. And I'm gonna be up front. I don't know if I've got like a soft spot for Sam Alvey because I've always really liked Sam Alvey back when he fought in the uh, Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that. I've always liked the guy, super nice guy, family guy, super hot ginger wife, at least at one point. So I'm always kind of wanting him to win. But looking at his record, man, Julian Marquez submitted him with a nasty rear naked choke. He went to a split with Da Un Jung. And this is what I mean is like I'm always taking the side of Sam Alvey. Like I'm always thinking to myself, if Sam Alvey goes out there and fights like he's on a 4, 5, 6, 7 fight losing streak for his job, he should get a knockout. Like he is capable of winning. But we know how to beat Sam Alvey. You stay on the outside, don't get lulled into his game, which is being the white Tyrone Woodley and just putting up himself against the cage and then trying to land that left straight. For Wellington Turman, on the other hand, he has shown very poor durability. He got knocked out by Andrew Sanchez, someone that you should never be knocked out by ever if you want to be in the UFC for a long term. And he gets knocked out by Bruno Silva, man. And he looked pretty good against Bruno for the first, say, couple minutes, and then Bruno just whacked him with some of the most vicious and like thudding, horrible sounding ground and pound. This Bruno Silva has some sledgehammers because he those punches were not like I don't know, man. He did not have the right angle to hit him that damn hard, and he hit him really hard. Whether it's Bruno Silva hits incredibly hard, like unnaturally hard, or Wellington Turman's chin is no longer the same. Maybe it's both. Maybe Wellington Turman's chin after those shots is just not ever going to be the same, and it sucks because this is a fight where the age difference is 10 years, and other than that, they're relatively the same. We've got Sam Alvey 6'2", come back on Turman 6 foot. We have a 3.5 inch reach advantage for Sam Alvey. This one's a lot closer, mainly because of that chin of Wellington Turman. And this could be, again, some bias when it comes to Sam Alvey, but there is a very good possibility he can get the knockout. And I'm just saying, keep an open mind on Sam Alvey by knockout as a prop. Uh, this one's tough, really, for me to pick because Wellington Turman should definitely win this fight. He is very capable. Even if he takes Sam Alvey down, he can just control him there. His grappling's sufficient enough to win this fight by a decision, but there's always that little voice in the back of my head telling me, like, yeah, Sam Alvey's going to win by first round knockout. You see, so mm, I'm gonna go with I guess I'm gonna ride or die with Sam Alvey until he's out of the UFC, which could be soon. So I'm gonna go with Sam Alvey knockout round number 2. I think Wellington Turman is going to pop off on him relatively early, win the first round. Another thing is Wellington makes some weird mistakes in there. He's very young in general and very young when it comes to his MMA game. Like he's showing his namesake of being a prodigy, but then he just goofs up and then he gets knocked out. So I'll go with Sam Alvey to capitalize using some sort of veteran trick and catching Wellington Turman, knocking him out in the second round.
Sam Alvey, man, this guy's you can't help but cheer for Sam. He seems like such a good guy. His nickname is Smiling, and it doesn't look like he's putting up a front. It doesn't look like he's Conor McGregor. 1 second nice Conor McGregor 1 second, and then turns around, talks all sorts of shit about your dead dad the next. Seems like a generally good guy. He seems like the type of guy you want to root for. win, lose, or draw. Unfortunately for Sam, uh, he's like on a razor's edge, or he's walking on egg. He's not walking on eggshells. He's doing like those jumping squats on eggshells at this point. Um, he is way beyond. I don't know what dirt he has on Dana White or those guys, um, but I don't really know of anybody with his track record that that is still in the UFC. Man, this is crazy. He to me he is the male Roxanne Modafferi and vice versa. Because Roxanne she seems pretty cool. I followed her on Instagram, and she seems like somebody you'd hang out with at a Pokemon tournament or something. Or I don't know what those things, what kind of tournaments there are now, or a D&D tournament or something or whatever. Um,
Dude, that's for fucking nerds. What are you talking about? This is an MMA channel.
yeah, man. But anyway, no, but she seems like she's into that. I don't know. I might be
Oh
thinking
yeah,
of
she
something
is.
else, but
I shouldn't talk,
uh,
dude. I'm doing a podcast and like I got a wall full of like Spider-Man toys.
but anyway, Sam's a cool guy. He's somebody. He's like Derek Lewis. Win, lose or draw. He's just somebody the fans love. Um, he isn't the most technical. He's up there in MMA age. He's only 35, but he's got a lot of wear and tear, man. This guy's fought a lot. Uh, and then we have Wellington Turman on the other side. Not sure why he's still going with that prodigy nickname. I mean, he doesn't have the worst record in the world, but at the same time, he hasn't really shown that uh, you know he is a prodigy. I mean, he's only beaten Marcus Perez. There we go. That's the Joker guy.
Yeah.
Um,
Luco.
yeah, he hasn't really fought and beat anybody of note. I guess Sam Alvey to this point in his career is the biggest name. Um, I mean, I'm going with Sam just because he is Sam. He's the guy that you root for. And actually, I think Sam has a very good chance of getting that win here. Very close decision. For sure, I think Sam is going to have the volume. He's going to. I see this
Did
the
you
way
really say Sam's gonna have the ball?
Yeah. Well, hear me out.
Okay.
I foresee this fight going like tonight's. We're recording this on the night of the Gastelum Cannonier fight. I foresee this fight as going like the Parker Porter Chase Sherman fight. Chase had maybe the speed, uh, possibly the strength advantage, and should have had the cardio advantage. But Parker Porter, he just reached deep inside that beer belly, and he just pulled it out, man. He just
Uh,
pulled it out, and he I don't know, man. He just pulled it out of wherever, and he just outstruck Jay Sherman. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like I was on that pork chop train, um, but that's how I see this fight going. I see Sam Alvey pulling it out, um, and just taking it to him. Rounds 2 and 3. Um, I see him getting that very close decision. So I'm going with Sam Alvey here by decision. Could be wrong, but Wellington Turman hasn't really shown any reason. If he's the favorite, um, he really hasn't. At least for me, he really hasn't shown any reason for him to be the favorite in any fight. And Sam Alvey, despite his all these losses on his record as of late, um, I don't know, man. I think he still has enough to pull this one out.
our next bout at middleweight, another short notice bout. This entire card has just been plagued with oddities. Like we had some good fights on here, and then a couple things get rearranged. But now we've got at middleweight, Abdul Razak Al Hassan is now fighting Alessio De Chirico. No odds on this one yet. This one is interesting because, as we've discussed before, Abdul Razak Al Hassan hasn't been the same. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. Alessio De Chirico was on a 3-fight losing streak and is now on the right end of a win over Joaquin Buckley. Knocked him the fuck out. Joaquin ducks, and then De Chirico throws a head kick and makes a highlight reel out of him. So how does he like it? And yeah, I see this one going to a decision. Of course, Abdul Razak Al Hassan can get the knockout, although Alicia, I don't think he's ever been knocked out. I know he's had some hairy moments in there, specifically with Zach Cummings, where that was the fight where I completely just fell off of the Chirico train. I'm like, dude, you should win this fight against a bloated welterweight. And he gets dropped in the third round because I can't remember if he was taunting or what he was doing, but he clearly loses that fight. And I'm like, oh my God, Alessio, what the hell? And then of course he gets back on the win column with Buckley, so that saved his job. And then he was super butthurt against not against, but he was super butthurt. He's like, I'm not gonna give you any interviews because you never interview me when I was losing my fights. I'm like, but whatever. It is what it is. I'm kind of butthurt about that. And yeah, Abdul Razak Al Hassan, he has not looked anywhere close to what he used to be. His last fight, of course, Jacob Malkoon at middleweight looked god awful. Jacob really put it on him, took him down. Very, very concerning that the judo black belt could not stuff a takedown to save his life, lost that decision. This one's really close. This was a coin flip for sure. It's going to go to a decision. De Chirico has to be the play. I think De Chirico by decision would be the one to go with. Abdul Razak Al Hassan will, of course, blitz in the first round. Even if he doesn't, if he tries to conserve his energy, very like much so like Marco Madsen did today against Clay Guida, which by the way, it was a fucking nail biter because I put a max bet on Marco Madsen, and thank God the judges gave it to him. But yeah, if he comes out there composed, tries to reserve his gas tank, something just tells me he's going to eventually crack. If this is in Vegas, right? Let me see. Yeah, it's in
Yes.
Vegas. So if say the limited crowd tends to boo, I think Razak Al Hassan might just like go for it and blow his wad. I don't see him conserving his energy. The Chirico, at the very least, he's very he's not very flashy, doesn't do much that would really diminish his cardio. So as long as he avoids getting knocked out clean, which I think he can, he should win this one by a decision. So I'll go with the Jericho by a decision.
Abdul Razak Al Hassan. Man, this guy has really fallen off the. Is it fallen off the rails or the train?
Falling off the rails is fine. Yeah.
He's fallen off the rails. Yeah. He is, yeah, dude. Since 2018, since he made his return against Munir Sniper Lazez, since we found out what that guy is, really all about, it's made his loss to him, Chaos Williams and Jacob Malkoon look all that. It's like it's snowballed for him, man. He's I think he's already buried. I don't think he's going to get back to his pre 2020 I don't think he's going to get his mojo back, so to speak. Yeah, man, he is. He was on a roll, but then, man, he came back. He has not been the same. I don't know if it's. Wait, why was he out? I don't even know why he was out. Was he out because of USADA or?
No. He got accused of sexy time that was not consensual, and he
Oh, that
was.
was him.
Yeah, he was out. I guess when they were investigating that, and he got
Oh,
cleared completely. But yeah, it looks like it really took a toll on him, which it really sucks, man. Knowing what Sabah Hamasi is doing in Bellator, I know he's just not doing great, but what he was doing, knowing that he knocked him out cold twice, it's like, man, that sucks for Judo Thunder, man. I wish he just, oh man, it sucks. I don't want to, I don't want to talk about it.
yes, thanks for him, man. On the flip side, De Chirico has turned it around for himself. Yeah, this guy. Well, I mean, going back a bit to Judo Thunder, it looks like that year and a half, close to 2 years of being away, really did a number on him. That is to say, um, more, now that you reminded me of why he was away, wasn't necessarily, um, injury related. Looks like that messed him up. I mean, not knowing the details of how his life changed, what he went through. Uh, Looks like it is, he's kind of in a downward spiral right now as far as his MMA career is concerned. And I think he's probably might be his last shot. I think in the UFC. Alessio De Chirico. Man, he had a heck of a win over Joaquin Buckley. I mean, we know Joaquin Buckley. He himself was coming off a win of Impa, or not necessarily.
He beat
He was like
Jordan
one,
Wright and then also Impa, like back to
yeah,
back.
yeah. But Impa was his. It was his sort of claim to fame. He didn't get all these sorts of deals like Masvidal did. Sleeping Curly Joe. What's his name? Um, but
Uh,
he did get that. I think his was more spectacular. I think Buckley's KO of Impa was insane. Hitting him right on the right on the button. That was insane. And for Alessio to come in and he didn't knock him out as spectacularly, but he did knock him out, and I think that uh, that was pretty. I think he set himself up for success because he was on a skid himself, and I think that definitely turned his fortune around. Wasn't necessarily luck or anything. I mean, this guy is a professional fighter, but uh, I don't think he got as much credit, or any credit for that fact. And so I think, wait, did Jordy, sorry, I don't recall, did Jordy talk about the odds for this fight?
no odds on this one.
Uh, I
Not
think they
yet.
might have, yeah, I think they might have Al Hassan as the favorite for, I get the feeling they might put Al Hassan as a favorite. If they do, I'd say grab the Chirico at underdog odds, if so. Um, Unless, I mean, this fight should be close. But I am favoring the Chirico here, despite the odds. Unless the odds come out as like Chirico minus 300, I think that's too much. Minus 200, it's like okay, you can add them to a parlay maybe. But anything under that, under 200, I think is a pretty good deal in this case. I'm going with the Chirico. I don't know if he'll be able to knock him out, but I think he might be able to wear him out. TKO is possible, maybe in the second, third round, because Al Hassan has shown he's not come in anywhere near the type of shape he was coming in 2018 and prior to that. So yeah, I think um, the Chirico is definitely the play for me here.
And before we begin the main card, I'd like to ask, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. We really enjoy reading the comments, really like hearing feedback. Let us know if you think our picks are fucking stupid or whatever. It's always fun. Like, I really enjoy talking MMA with people, the MMA community. It's just awesome for us. And yeah, what do you have to say, Jose?
Good news this week. Um, Funny, I didn't think it would be good news, and it's not even MMA. You know what? It is MMA related, and you'll probably know why. So CM Punk made his comeback to AEW. It's good news for wrestling fans, and it's even better news for MMA fans because we're not going to have to sit through 15 more minutes of that debacle that people refer to as CM Punk's MMA skills. This guy couldn't throw a punching bag. Couldn't throw a punching bag. Couldn't throw a punch at Roxanne Modafferi as someone paid him to. But I think the bigger news than CM Punk making a returns was actually the pop that Brock Lesnar got. Apparently, Brock Lesnar's not coming back to the UFC. He's not going to fight Ngannou or anything. He decided to go back to WWE and he's going to face off against Roman Reigns, apparently. And he actually has a pretty cool haircut. It reminded me of Jiri Prohaska.
Yeah,
He
dude,
has that whole,
you look like a fucking leather Viking daddy out there.
Yeah, man, he was. I was like, wow, that's pretty badass. And I mean, Prochaska is a pretty badass dude himself, but with Lesnar coming at you, I'm pretty sure Roman Reigns needed a change of pants after he faced off with him. Um, anyway, that's all the good. I think I had more good news, but that's I think that tops it off for the week.
Well, good news for me. I'll be out in LA this coming weekend.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, we'll
that's
be
right.
probably watching this fight together. It'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
But to begin the main card, we've got a middleweight bout between GM3 Gerald Meerschaert and Mahmoud Murodov. What do you guys want me to say about this fight? Really, um, you pretty much know where I'm going with this. I've got Murodov to win by a knockout. GM3, Gerald Meerschaert, he puts up a hell of a fight in most of his bouts. He is always live for a submission. So if you're doubting Murodov for whatever reason, his boxing skills, man, his hands are lethal. He will eventually catch the chin of Gerald Meerschaert. He's on a really solid win streak in the UFC. His wins include the aforementioned Alessio Di Chirico by decision, Trevor Smith by knockout. Actually, when doing research on these dudes, when I was pulling up pictures for Muradov, there was a beautiful, absolutely stunning picture of Trevor Smith getting cracked in the mouth. That hopefully, if Trevor Smith is still in the UFC, I haven't double checked. I would love to use if he gets signed another UFC bout. And of course, Andrew Sanchez, he knocked him out with a flying knee and punches 6 months ago. Gerald Meerschaert, he got knocked out by one punch by a Swedish wrestler in Kazmat Chimaev. And then good for him, he ended up getting that submission over Bartosz Verbinski. In certain spots, definitely bet Gerald Meerschaert by submission. You can definitely go ahead and put a couple little sprinkles here and there for Gerald Meerschaert by submission in this bout. Uh, it's worth a shot. God knows if it's going to be like a plus 700 or something, but Muradov by knockout, I think, is the play. If you want to do round number one, round number two, just any round, I think he's going to win this one pretty simple and pretty easy. Um, yeah, man, Muradov's skills are just very solid. And when it comes to the competition level of GM3, he's game for damn sure he's game, but he cannot eat the punches that Mahmoud is going to be throwing at him. So I've got Mach to win. Uh I'll say it. I'll first round knockout, man. He couldn't take a punch from a wrestler. Granted, it was Kazmat and he does punch pretty damn hard. A guy like Mahmoud who trains with Money Team, yeah, it ain't gonna look good for Gerald. So it would absolutely suck if Gerald Meerschaert is looking like a world beater against Mahmoud. Oh, that would suck. But now I'm gonna go with Mahmoud round number one knockout.
Yeah, Meerschaert. He's gonna have to change the spelling of his name after this fight. I'm not sure how you spell, shard. When you shit your pants. When you're trying to just expel some gas. Shart. It's Shart. Anyway, however you
Yep.
spell that, he's gonna have to change. Yeah, he's definitely gonna have to change his either the spelling of his name, or that's gonna have to be his nickname after this fight. I don't think Meerschaert is anywhere near UFC caliber. I think he's more. I think he'd do probably better in the PFL or Bellator organizations. Here, he's just. I think he's just going to be a guy that I don't even think he's Brooklyn Brawler status, to be honest, because Brooklyn Brawler, at least he was the measuring stick to see if guys were ready for the big time. Here, this guy's just I don't know. He's just being fed to these up and comers. Sure, he can beat these lower level guys by submission, but it doesn't. I don't think his chin is going to hold up very much longer, man. If he stays in the UFC. Yeah, but I'm also going with Muradov. Uh, yeah, it's weird, me, Muradov. Um,
Mahmoud Muradov.
ah, yeah, I guess I didn't pronounce my enough. Yeah, I'm also going with him. This guy is really good. I think going to make a splash this year. I anticipate him being top 15, maybe top 10 by the end of next year, I would say. Um, yeah, this guy's got lightning and thunder in his hands, man. And I think if he keeps working on his grappling, he's definitely set to make a big splash next year. So Makhmurdov, no, yeah, Mac Murodov by KO, but I definitely add him. I'm pretty sure he's going to be a big favorite, like minus two, 300. So I definitely add him to a parlay somewhere.
Our next bout at middleweight, we've got two Ultimate Fighter contestants duking it out. We've got Andre Petroski versus Michael Gillmore. Interesting bout. No odds on this one quite yet. And it's hard really to go into much detail about this one. Petroski, he's a wrestler, he's a grappler, he's very strong, very well built, kind of gasses out. Michael Gillmore, on the other hand, he is primarily a striker. As we saw in The Ultimate Fighter, his takedown defense was not great. His grappling was not great. He got choked out by, what was it? I always get the Urbinas mixed up. So it was Gilbert. Yeah, Gilbert Urbina. I was going to call him Hector. And yeah, he came in on short notice and was only there to get his ass choked out. It should be pretty cut and dry for Petroski. We don't really know when it comes to The Ultimate Fighter where they are from the show to where they are now, because you have an idea after watching the show, and then months later, because of course the show is delayed, they could have made incredible improvements. And the best way to describe that is the bout between Dennis Bermudez and Diego Brandao, because Brandao looked like an absolute monster killer murderer in the show, and no one really thought that Bermudez would really stand a chance against this guy. And although Bermudez lost, he had some great moments in that bout. He knocked him down. He just looked really good. And Bermudez had an excellent career, ended up retiring with a win. And I really don't know what Diego Brandao's at. I met him one time, really cool guy, at least to me, anyways. I know he's kind of a I'll stab you in the neck type of dude, but that's a good example, right? Like, who knows where these guys are at? Based on what I know about both of these guys, Andre should just take him down and submit him, possibly ground and pound. Michael, of course, could have been working on his takedown defense and his grappling defense, but I think Petroski's just so dominant and so strong. Should be pretty cut and dry. I'm going to go with Petroski to win this one by a second. Now, I'll go first round submission. I'll say a arm triangle choke.
Yeah, man, this is a coin flip fight. I don't see either of these guys finishing the other, to be honest. I'm more confident saying, this is going over for sure. But if I have to, put it into my head, I'd say take Petroski by decision. But again, I'm not really too confident in this fight. These guys aren't. I don't think either of these guys is, a level above in any category. You see them, you talk about whether it be striking, grappling, wrestling, or submissions and such. Yeah, no, I'll take Petroski by decision, but again, I'm not really too confident in that. I'm more confident in the over. I think this fight's definitely going the distance.
Our next bout at welterweight, we've got the return of fighter Kevin Lee, the Motown phenom, against D-Rod Daniel Rodriguez. Very short notice bout again. The theme of this card, Daniel Rodriguez stepped up to fight Kevin Lee, and currently the odds have it at, very surprisingly, minus 145 Kevin Lee, plus 115 Daniel Rodriguez. I don't know why that is. Maybe because of the short notice. Kevin Lee, if I recall correctly, when it comes to welterweight, he is 1-1, right? He fought Edson Barboza at welterweight, or who did he beat at welterweight? He beat somebody at welterweight, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I know he lost to Rafael Dos Anjos at welterweight, came back down to lightweight. When was it? A year or so later, knocked out Gregor Gillespie. Everyone was back on Kevin Lee's nuts, and then he lost to the champion, got submitted. Then he resurrected, tried to take him down after submitting. Very much so like his brother in Bellator, in Keith Lee. He got submitted by Lugo. I'll give Kevin, or not Kevin, but Keith Lee some props. Dude gets choked out cold, wakes up immediately after giving up or getting the choke released, and then tries to play it off like he wasn't just completely out. I'm like, all right, you know what, man? Earned my fucking respect. Kudos to him. Uh, Daniel Rodriguez, man, he's on a pretty good roll right now. He beat Mike Perry, and then he knocked out Preston Parsons. Preston Parsons, very short notice guy. Can't really put a whole ton of stock on that, but he has been improving ever since the Nicholas Dalby fight, since he lost that one via decision. His whole thing was that he just didn't do enough. Kevin Lee has to come down and take down Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez, I think, is going to be too heavy and too strong, heavy hips. Crazy to think that although Daniel Rodriguez is a taller guy, 6'1", and the 5'9" Kevin Lee has a longer reach by 3 inches. That's freaking crazy. Yeah, man, Kevin Lee, he's known to submit. Daniel Rodriguez has a very nasty guillotine. He's going to have the power advantage. It's really crazy to think that he's the underdog. I'm going to blast that line. Hopefully, he still stays the underdog. I'm very high on Daniel Rodriguez. Kevin Lee, of course, can win this fight, man. He's very dynamic. He's not going to have the weight cut. He's very strong. It's just that, man, I think his right division is lightweight. It's just that I don't know what it is, man. Like he's one of these cerebral guys, and by cerebral I mean he's fucking dumb as shit sometimes, where he gets in his own head and just makes really poor decisions inside the cage. And I think if he does that with Daniel Rodriguez, if he gets clipped, as we've seen, his chin is not the best. If he gets clipped, Daniel Rodriguez is either going to put his lights out or choke him out. So I'll go with Daniel. I think he has more options to win via volume with strikes, TKO, submission. Yeah, if Kevin Lee takes him down, is he going to get tired from taking down the heavier Daniel Rodriguez? We'll see. Again, Kevin Lee hasn't fought in what, a year and a half, so we'll see what happens. And yeah, I got Daniel Rodriguez second round knockout.
I'm also going with Daniel, mainly because I don't like Kevin Lee. Never liked him. Wow, he's only 28 years old. I thought he was in his 30s. Jesus. Um, yeah, I'm not really anywhere near being a fan of Kevin Lee for any reason. Um, he, yeah, I think this is definitely Daniel Rodriguez's fight to lose, and he'll only lose if he lets um, Kevin Lee's really only way to win in this fight is to get like one or two takedowns per round and just sit on him. You know, if Daniel Rodriguez decides not to get up and fight, then he's going to lose this fight. If he keeps it on his feet, um, at the very least, blocks most of the takedown attempts, or even if he gets taken down, if he gets right back up and goes to town on Kevin Lee, I think he'll win. And I'm hoping he does, but it'll just really depend on what kind of shape he's in. So, again, this is Daniel Rodriguez's fight to lose. I'm going with him. I anticipate this going the distance as well. So I'm taking Daniel Rodriguez by decision.
Our next bout for the Ultimate Fighter 135-pound championship, we've got Ricky Turcios versus Brady Hiestand. Currently, no odds on this fight. Uh, Interesting bout between these two guys, both teammates from Team Volkanovski. And we have seen both of these guys really get put in there and tested. Specifically, Ricky Turcios, he had some really fun fights in there. Brady Hiestand, his first fight was an epic back and forth bout, and his last bout was against that Team Alpha male guy, Vincent Murdoch, where he TKO'd him in the first round. I think he hurt his knee, Vincent, that is. Interesting bout between both of these guys. The more skilled and the more seasoned guy being Ricky Turcios. He fought in the Contender Series. He was the guy who lost to Boston Salmon, who got him into the UFC. And then since then, he lost to Mana Martinez by knockout. Since that point, he has one win on his record, and then that's where he's currently on the UFC contract for the Ultimate Fighter. Hiestand on the other side, very similar. He has a 5-1 record, and his main and only loss is to a Chad Heigler. I haven't seen the fight, but he lost by TKO. And then he has a submission win over a Shane Sargent, who is 1-12. So you might know where I'm going with this one. Brady trains with Michael Chiesa. He does show some really solid ground game. His takedowns are good. He has some good power. He does slow down. Ricky Turcios, man, I think Ricky Turcios is going to inherit the win streak of his, what I'll call him, his father, um, Tony Ferguson, because if you've seen Ricky Turcios, you know this guy gives off some Tony Ferguson vibes up the ass. Like this guy is something different, man. He's very fun to watch. He is very good off of his back. He's got a very good ground game. His takedowns are suspicious. They're not the best, but he's got a high volume style, very good chin despite, being knocked out by Mana Martinez. But Mana Martinez, as I mentioned, pretty strong guy, pretty good left hook, black belt in karate. So it's not anything to be ashamed of. This one's going to be pretty close in the first round and a half. At that point, Ricky Turcios, I see him just outlanding Brady, stuffing some of his takedowns. And then when he does get taken down, he's going to be very active off of his back. He will not give up guard. He will not let his guard get past. He'll throw up triangle submissions, arm bars, whatnot. I think come round number 3, Brady's going to be really tired, and Ricky is just going to put it on him. His ground game is, I would say, superior to Brady's. Brady's more of a top wrestler type, ground and pound, maybe a rear naked choke, very much Chiesa style. But if you get tired, Ricky's going to come and beat your ass. So I'll go with Ricky Turcios to win this one. Very exciting decision win. I'll say 29-28, possibly even a split. But yeah, Ricky Turcios, I think this guy's going to take over where Tony Ferguson left off.
I'm also going with Turcios. Here I'm just following the predictions on Tapology. Looks like more than 80% of the crowd on Tapology is going with Turcios. So I'll just hop on that train for this one. I'll just go by decision as well.
You haven't been watching The Ultimate Fighter, huh?
The Ultimate Fight. Yeah, I haven't really, to be honest, I haven't really watched it since season 1. I tried watching. Let me see, what season was that? The season where young Jacek and Gedalia were on there, because I thought Gedalia was kind of hot for a minute, but then she kind of grew that Stewie Griffin head, and then it's kind of like it's like I'm like, man, she looks kind of weird, like a little stumpy girl with a big ass head. Anyway, I watched that for a minute. It was fairly, I was gonna say a few episodes were okay. They were kind of entertaining, but then listening to each of them try to speak English, that was pretty painful. I'm like, no, that was almost as bad as hearing Ngannou on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Moving on to the middleweight tournament championship, the co-main event between can't believe his nickname is Pooh Bear, Brian Pooh Bear Battle versus Gilbert Urbina. Very short notice replacement. Again, theme of the episode. Gilbert Urbina is taking the spot of Tresean Gore. Tresean Gore hurt himself. Funny enough, Tresean knocked out Gilbert Urbina with a beautiful left hook, and that was going to be the fight. Tresean team Ortega versus Brian Battle, Team Volkanovski. And it kind of sucks that, he got injured, because now it's a full Team Volkanovski finale for both fights. But this fight, it's very interesting between two guys. I think Gilbert Urbina, his only loss officially is to Sean Brady. And we know how good Sean Brady is, undefeated in the UFC, excellent wins. And for Brian Battle, I didn't think much of this guy, but after watching him fight in the I keep calling it a Contender Series, so conditioned to think of that, but in the Ultimate Fighter, he does show a lot of promise. He's 26 years old. I think with the right seasoning with this guy, the right training, he could make a good impact in the UFC. I think his overall skill set is something to keep an eye out for in the middleweight division. Yeah, I like Brian Battle in this bout. Having been knocked out recently, Gilbert Urbina, about a month or so ago, depending on when they filmed, I have no idea exactly. It's not the best. It's not the best look to come into a fight when you just recently got knocked out. So I'll go with Brian Battle to win. I think he's going to use his superior movement. He'll move forward. He'll land low kicks, body kicks, and I think he eventually TKOs Gilbert Urbina. Urbina has a chance, of course. His ground game is pretty solid. It's just that his striking defense is very questionable. They're both very raw, very young. It's just that, yeah, like from what I've seen, Brian Battle should win this one pretty decisively. We'll see what these guys have done in that period of time since the Ultimate Fighter to improve. Maybe we'll see a completely different Gilbert Urbina, but yeah, having been cracked like that, it's really tough to pick him in this bout. So I'll go with Brian Battle, second round TKO.
Here I'm hopping on the Tapology predictions as well. I'm going with Brian Battle. Don't really have too much info on these guys. Um, from what I can, usually I would say it's in these kinds of cases, at least for me, the guy with the slightly better record is usually the play. Um, but I would say I'm just going with the Tapology. I'm hopping on the Tapology train, going with Battle by decision. Even though that's probably the lamest. There was another lame nickname. I think it was a few months ago, and it wasn't the Great Draculini. It was his performance that sucked, not his nickname. There's another nickname. Damn it, name escapes me, but it was just as bad, if not worse, than Pooh Bear. What was it? Fluffy Hernandez.
Fluffy Hernandez, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez.
Yeah, that guy. I was like, dude, that guy's. I think he ended up winning, didn't he?
Yeah, he beat the great jiu-jitsu ace.
That's right. Yeah, I was like, man, that guy's nickname sucks. So I guess this trend is probably going to follow. It's like, oh, the guy with the lame nickname is going to win here as well.
Next bout and main event of the evening. Just Bleed Gods have blessed us. Edson Barboza versus Giga Chikadze. We've got two ninjas on the card, baby. I wonder what I was gonna say, I wonder what Guido Cannetti would do to Giga Chikadze, beat his ass for taking his nickname. Hell of a fight, hell of a main event. Currently, the odds are dead even, -115, -115, according to my bookie. Oh man, this fight is really tough, and I'd love to know what you guys think about this one. I've been going back and forth every single time. I keep going back and forth with this bout because I think, man, Giga Chikadze equally as good as Edson Barboza with the striking. They're both kickers. And I started thinking, yeah, he's younger. Giga's got some really good momentum. So does Edson Barboza. Edson Barboza has fought the better competition throughout his entire UFC stunt. Well, he did pull a stunt, but stint in the UFC, and recently has some excellent wins over Makwan Amirkhani, and then he knocked out Shane Burgos in a hell of a fight. Giga Chikadze's last fight was a win over Cub Swanson. Yeah, right on. Interesting fight, man. This one, I think, is going to go to a decision because they are both so much. There's so much striking here. It's much striking, very good. Both of them are so good at the striking that it's going to have to come down to who is going to push that extra bit to win this bout. If it goes into the fourth and fifth, who's going to have more in the gas tank? Giga Chikadze is known to gas out. Giga Chikadze hasn't gone out of the first round in his last two fights. His most recent decision was against Omar Morales. Looked very good there, very composed. Gas tank looked fine. The only concern is that he looked very gassed against Jamal Emmers. And that's mainly because Jamal Emmers did initiate the grappling. Now, my thought is Edson Barboza should implement some grappling in here. I know he's not known for it, but I think he is the wily veteran that if he were to get a takedown, he can clearly edge out the rounds because I think Edson Barboza, I don't give this guy enough credit. He is, again, one of the better strikers in the UFC. He's the only man that would have a knockout via head kick, body kick, and leg kicks. You respect this man, Edson Barboza. Giga Chikadze has the Giga kick, the liver shot, the left kick to the body, man. I really like Giga. I want to go with him, but it's super tough to make a clear, educated decision on this bout because it is so up in the air. It really comes down to who is going to push harder. And I'm leaning Edson Barboza to win this one. I think he is going to just demonstrate his overall skill and prove that he is where he needs to be at this very point. He's number 7 in the world at featherweight for a reason. He did lose to Dan Ige, which benefited me, but frankly, he beat Dan Ige 2 rounds to 1. He should be 3-0 at featherweight right now, but it is what it is. Man, I really like Giga, man. I was in an elevator with this guy. He seemed really cool. He had bright ass yellow shoes, so man, I'd like to see Giga win because it's like he's a slightly younger guy. He's a new guy in the division. Like he's not this guy that eventually in 2 years is going to retire. I mean, in 2 years he'll be 35 and the same age as Edson is now. But does Edson still have that durability? Is he going to fight for the title? Is he going to get cracked by Giga? Who the hell knows, man? It's coming back and forth because I think like Giga Chikadze is a pretty good striker, but then against Shane Burgos has excellent power and he couldn't crack Edson. Coin flip. Edson Barboza, I'll go with him to win by a decision.
I'm actually going with Giga here. So going back to Shane Burgos. Shane Burgos shit the bed against Josh Emmett last year, well over a year ago. Sure, he beat what's his name, Makwan Americani, Shane Burgos. But then his last one was Dan Hooker back in 2018. So he was like on a 2-year skid without winning. Sure, he lost to Dan Ige. He lost to Paul Felder. Those are split decision losses. I actually, to be honest, I had him winning both those fights. I think the judges were they were biased against the brown man, so I think they gave it to the white guys. Paul Felder can't get any whiter than that ginger bastard. And Justin Gaethje, yeah, he lost pretty bad to him.
What about Dan Ige?
He's white by association. He's from Hawaii, so he's like, oh man, that brother is a white guy too. And then he lost to Kevin Lee, Dr. Stoppage. He lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. Yeah, he's lost to some pretty good guys and Michael Johnson. Yeah, he hasn't. As of right now, I think. What's his name? Edson is. He's still good, but he is past the point of when he could have been great. I would say he could have been great like 2015 on. You know what I mean? Because he was on a skid where he beat, I think, some pretty good guys in Anthony Pettis, Gilbert, Melendez, Benil Dariush, and then he ran into Khabib and Kevin Lee. I think with Kevin Lee, it was just like, oh man, he still had Khabib in the back of his mind. But I think Giga is that. I honestly think Giga is the fighter that Edson should have been. Yeah, Giga hasn't fought any to this point. Edson's going to be the first probably big name that Giga's fighting. But I think he's going to make it count. Giga has some pretty devastating kicks, what Edson is known for. But I think he just has a little bit more kick to his kicks. He has a little bit more
mustard.
Yeah, behind his kicks. And I think he's going to have not just the kicks, but he's going to have just the overall better striking, meaning punches, possibly elbows. But he's just going to have better. I think he has better footwork. I think he has better timing. I don't know if he's as fast as Edson. Edson's pretty fast. I think he's lost a step. He's definitely lost a step in the last like 5 years or so. But Giga's kicks, they just have more force behind them at this point. Um, sure, Giga's not that much younger. 2 years isn't really a lot. But the thing is that he has a lot less MMA miles on him, and I think that's what's going to make the difference. Uh, he's yeah, the height is negligible. The reach, yeah, damn. Okay, Edson has the reach advantage. That's crazy. So all that's negligible. These guys are physically, on par. I think it's just not so much the age, like I said, but it's the MMA miles on his body. I think Giga's gonna outland him, outstrike him. Very possible in the first round. He might. That's really the round that I see Edson winning, possibly. Depending on how chill Giga wants to be. Maybe in the first or second round. But I think once Giga gets going, he is going to take over and just put on a clinic for Edson, unfortunately. I'm taking Giga here. I would say this one's a tough one. I would say maybe by TKO. It might be worth to sprinkle some on the TKO prop. But for sure, I would include Giga in one of my parlays, maybe with let's see, with these guys, Battle, Turcios, it sounds like I'm gonna have a seizure. I'm gonna fall off a 2 foot ledge or something, trying to pronounce this guy's last name, Murodov. Yeah, I would say I would add him to my parlay, and the parlay I would put on this is I would get Mana, to put the over on the female fight, Dustin Jacoby, put the over on the Sam Alvey fight, Alessio De Chirico, Murodov, Daniel Rodriguez, Tercios Battle, and definitely Giga. That would be, what, I am gonna haven't done this in a while, but that is going to be my play for this card. So I'm going Giga by decision, but I may sprinkle a bit on the TKO prop.
It's gonna be a hell of a fight, man. We're split on it, and I see your points, but yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. I'm really looking forward to this bout. But those have been our picks for UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Chikadze. Please again, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. That's been Johnny and Jose from Tiger Bomb MMA, and we'll catch you at the next fight.